There's now less than 50 days until the 2025 NRL season kicks off, and in this video, which is a fan favourite, I will be speaking about every NRL team, all 17 teams, biggest upset in 2025, looking ahead at the ladder, whether it be a massive 20 plus sort of margin, an edge out victory, or just an upset in relation to where teams were last year. Let's get into every team's biggest upset in 2025. Starting off with round 9, I'm tipping the Brisbane Broncos to upset the Penrith Panthers. Now, the Broncos won't host a Magic Round game against Penrith. They are technically the home team. This Broncos side has gone through some off-season drama, but for the most part, it's still a very strong team on paper that should be succeeding. And something tells me at Magic Round, they're going to want to put out a statement and beat Penrith. We saw them almost beat Penrith in a grand final in 2023. We saw them in round 1 come out to Penrith and beat them. So we know that team on paper can match up against the Panthers. And in round 9, I think the Broncos get their best win of the year, upsetting the 4-time premiers. Next up in round number 19, we're going to be talking about the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, and I'm going to take them to get a big win over the Cowboys in Townsville. It's going to be a bit of a night to forget for Cowboys fans. I'm going to say they win something like a 38-12, something like that sort of scoreline. The Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs picking up where they were last year and heading up to Townsville, taking home big 2 points here in round number 19 against North Queensland. Next up, we're going to be speaking about the North Queensland Cowboys and the team that they are going to beat. They have beaten 2 of their last 3 games against them. I'm going with the Melbourne Storm. They're in for a big year, but I think in round 14, the Cowboys have the team to beat the Storm. They've shown that they can do it a couple of times. Sometimes the Storm are missing players, but if that happens in 2025, that's just part of football. I think it'll be a very close game, but the Cowboys to edge over the Storm in round number 14. Next up, they were so close to doing it in 2024, but in 2025, they will go one better. In round 19, I am predicting the Dolphins to defeat the Cronulla Sharks at Cronulla Shark Park, PointsBet Stadium, whatever its 1000th name is this time. But I do expect the Dolphins to come away with a victory in round 19. Okay, with this one, let's spice things up here because we know that the Dragons have a good record against the Sea Eagles. But I'm going to say in round 26, when the Sea Eagles are humming, they're in good form, they've won, 3-4 games in a row, and the Dragons defeat an in-form Sea Eagles team in round number 26, and that is the Dragons' best victory of the season. In round 13, the Parramatta Eels are going to beat the Penrith Panthers at a Panthers home game at CommBank. I really do see this happening. We always turn up against them. We probably should have beat them last year, but some poor defence in the back half year. We've recruited nicely to match up against the Panthers. We'll see how it goes. We do play them twice, both at CommBank, but in round 13, when it's their home game, we'll come away with the chocolates. Next up, in round number 13, I'm not expecting the greatest of years from Newcastle, and I don't think many people are. But I think in round 13, and I believe it is a Dragons home game, I think they'll beat the Dragons. I think they've shown in the past that they have had a good record against the Dragons previously. I don't know how it has been in the last couple of years, but I just see the Knights inspiring a victory on the road against the Dragons in round number 13. Next up, we take a very short trip to round number 1 and in Las Vegas. Not really an upset, but I think a lot of people know that the Sharks have been a top 4 side, or at least a top 8 side for the last few years. They get Adam Fanua-Blake. They're coming off a prelim. So I'm going to go with the Penrith Panthers to beat the Cronulla Sharks in Vegas. I don't necessarily think it will be a blowout victory, but I could see the Panthers winning by at least 8+ points. And this is going to be the Panthers' biggest upset of the year, technically speaking. Next up in the final round, fast forward from the start of the season right to the end, and I'm going to take round number 27. I'm going to take this right now because every year I do it, and it seems to happen a lot, and I seem to not point it out. The Rabbitohs to defeat the Roosters. Now, the Rabbitohs obviously finished in very poor position on the ladder, whereas the Roosters finished in a good position. But going into this year, I feel like the Rabbitohs look like a great team under Wayne Bennett. And I think in round 27, they are going to beat their rival, the Roosters, at that game. In round number 26, in a game where it's always been the Dolphins kicking away and winning, I'm going to tip the Gold Coast Titans to pull off an upset at Suncorp against the Dolphins in round 26. They've come close to beating them. I think they have beaten them once, but I think they've had at least 4 encounters, and it's definitely gone the Dolphins' way for 80% of those. But I think in 2025, the Titans will beat the Dolphins in round 26. Now, the Sharks have been beating the Roosters recently, but previously it was the Roosters with a massive record against the Sharks. And in round 20, I'm going to predict that the Roosters defeat the Cronulla Sharks and get one over them, because lately it's been the Sharks beating them. Here's an interesting one. I think that the Canberra Raiders in round 11 will go into a bit of a pick'em game against the Gold Coast Titans, with neither team in the greatest of form, but the Raiders are at home. The Titans know that the game against the Raiders is circled as one of those teams to beat because, it was very controversial in that game, the way it went down in the end. And I think it's going to be too much for the Titans thinking that way. So I'm going to say that the Raiders at home get a big, convincing victory over the Titans. Maybe they win the game by about 16, 18 points. But unfortunately for the Titans, back-to-back years, losses at Canberra. In also the final round of the regular season, and the Sea Eagles will be looking to get a home victory to finish off the season. Potentially a final spot. We'll see how we go in that ladder. But if it's not, they'll definitely want to get one for the fans. But regardless of which way this goes, in round 27, I'm going to say that the New Zealand Warriors knock off Manly down at Brookvale in a pretty big upset. Now, they did it last year without Nico Hines, and I'm tipping them to do it again. They have such a strong team on paper. In round number 17, the Cronulla Sharks to defeat the Melbourne Storm. Almost certain this game is at Amy Park. Yes, the Storm are very tough at Amy Park, but I think the Sharks have always been a team that can trouble the Storm. This could have potentially been a grand final last year. It could potentially be a grand final this year, but the Sharks are going to beat Melbourne in round 17. Next up at Amy Park in round number 3, I'm tipping the Melbourne Storm to defeat the Penrith Panthers at home in the grand final rematch. We saw them play a very physical, low-scoring game against the Panthers at home last season. I expect similar, but I do expect the Panthers to score more points than 0. And in this game, I think that the Storm will get a bit of grand final rematch revenge, but it will matter come finals, not this game. Next up in round number 12, heading to CommBank Stadium, and I think that the Manly Sea Eagles have what it takes to defeat the Parramatta Eels at home. I think we always play a great game against Manly, but they are a very tough team, especially at Brookvale, and I don't think picking the Brookvale game would be much of an upset. So I'm actually going to say that, potentially they win 2-0 this year against Parramatta, but I am thinking that Manly beat Parramatta in round 12 at CommBank. Last but not least, in a team that is building away from wooden spoon eras to hopefully something special for its fans, the West Tigers of round 14 are going to make a massive statement when Jerome Luai faces his former club and the West Tigers pull off a massive upset. They host a home game against the Panthers at CommBank, and they end up winning that game in round number 14. Well, there we have it for another year. Me predicting every NRL team's biggest upset, this time the 2025 edition. Please let me know your upset games in the comments below. I'd love to have a look at them. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. At 5,000 subscribers, I will be giving away an NRL membership. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.